once I did that, then a few different things happened. I met Danny from Koncrete.
Yeah.
So that was, and he's like one of my best friends now.
How'd you meet him though? So you got Raj. He wanted Raj, or what happened?
No. Actually, someone else had called me up and asked for my opinion on this other podcast. I said, okay, what's the name of the podcast? And I pride myself on trying to know all the big podcasts. Like I listen to a lot of shit, man.
Yeah.
And so they said the name of the podcast is Koncrete with a K. And I said, oh, I haven't heard of that. So I look at it on YouTube. I pull it up. He's got like a good subscriber base, and I click. I'm like, how the fuck have I never heard of this? I started watching. I watched probably.
You're that lane of
exactly
criminals, and
But I had always done. Here's the thing. I had always done my podcasts on Spotify and Apple. I never did my podcast on YouTube, and Danny was a very YouTube centric, and he's doing well on everything now. But that's where he built. And so I wasn't like, now I'm a YouTube head. I never I use YouTube a ton, but like I wasn't the guy who was a part of the YouTube community. I went onto YouTube to watch what I wanted and didn't, whatever. So now I do that. I'm like, wow, I hadn't heard of him. And when I was working, I would just have like his podcast playing in the background. I'm like, this shit's fire. And his cinematography was excellent. I'm like, damn, I wonder who this dude is. And so I went back to the friend. I said, hey, that's a great podcast. I love it. And so about 3 weeks later, I get a DM from Danny.
Oh, shit.
I'm like, what the fuck? And so I hit the DM and he goes, yo, bro, some of my fans are fans of your show. And they pointed out to me and said I should get in touch with you. And I checked out the podcast. I love it. Like,
oh, wow.
But can we talk? And I said, fuck yeah. So then we got on the phone and we invited each other on each other's podcasts. Nice. I sent him a guest. He sent me a guest right away. I mean, it was like, and he's been one of my biggest cheerleaders, period. Like that guy will help me with absolutely anything. He got me Andy Bustamante, who he found, and he really blew up. And now look what's happened because of what he did. He got me Matt Cox, who's another guy that he really blew up. There were two guys he didn't get me, but who were on his show that have great episodes with him, John Boziak and Tim McBride. And then he also, there was one or two others he got me. We both had Ryan Tate because we were both talking about that at the same time. And then I sent him David Satter. I sent him Big Dan.
Nice.
Who else was the? He just sent me Jim. He sent me he sent me the other Jim.
Oh, nice.
He sent me I sent him Jim DiOrio, but he sent me Mad Dog Jim Lawler, the CIA guy. He had a great podcast with him. He called me up. He's like, yo, you got to talk to this dude. I was like, say less, kid.
Well,
but so that's how I met him.
I have to admit, I gotta send him something. So I'll send, give me a P.O. box. I gotta send him whatever his poison is. I probably got a lot of my mob guests from him. Not that I didn't know who they were. But
from Danny.
He made them relevant again. Obviously, Johnny Elliott I knew already, but Larry Mazza he had on, which was good. And then non-mob, I had Tim McBride. Jim DiOrio, I probably jointly saw him on yours and his. So I use Koncrete as kind of a good referral source in terms of getting some good guests. And and you guys are similar, but you're different. So like I can watch Jim DiOrio on Koncrete and then watch it on Trendifier. Like you guys are definitely not an echo chamber.
I should have said this too. I should have said this earlier, by the way. Yeah. Jim DiOrio was one guy who just the public didn't know, but obviously his resume for people listening right now who don't know who he is, the guy was West Point.
I had him on my show based off of Trendifier.
Oh, he just came on?
Yeah, just in a few weeks.
Oh, awesome. I got to send me that when it's done. But like, yeah, so he was a guy, I knew him. So before episode 87, he was by far my most popular guest, and people were like blown away I could get him, and he was a big guest and continues to be. I should have said that. But yeah, I mean, that's great to hear, because I think I jokingly describe it with people. I'm like, Danny's weed and I'm cocaine when it comes to like style. Like Danny will will let people talk themselves into a hole for 25 minutes and then just calmly hit them with something where they're like, fuck.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of the more like active, and I'll do that too, but he's very, very laid back. I can come out of it a little bit.
I like that. And all right, so let's have some fun. Okay, so I didn't know until we just talked earlier that you have a little bit of a mob history background. You're strong with a lot of the CIA, a lot of conspiracies. So let's kind of start with my wheelhouse, and we'll go from there, or our wheelhouse, if you will, with the mob stuff. What's kind of like your bailiwick in terms of era for the mob? What you know a little bit more about, you know?
Yeah, everything, man. So we had to do research papers in high school. So I think it was my junior year. I was assigned the Sicilian Mafia. It was for European history. So I started researching that, and I'm like, this shit's wild. And The Godfather, I've probably seen 7,000 times. I know it by heart. You know, my favorite movie of all time. I love every mob movie ever.
Love it.
And so I was like, this shit's awesome. And this was not